join us.
All right, here we go, and we're live. How are you, sir?
I'm super good. How you doing, Dante?
I'm doing well, doing well. All right, there's a so there's a I'm hearing a double. Let me see. Why am I hearing a double? Do you hear two of us?
No, I only hear you.
Okay. All right. Let me see. All right. I'll just have to fight through it. All right. Here we go. You know what's funny to me is most people spend their lives trying to look successful, while a small group is quickly learning how to own the game. See, there's a difference between making money and building something that makes money without asking you for permission every morning. Real estate has always been sold as the American dream: white picket fence, 30-year mortgage, stability. But what if I told you the real dream isn't owning a home, it's owning the system behind the home? So today's guest didn't just follow the blueprint, he started asking better questions. Why just stop at one property? Why play small when leverage exists? And why build wealth quietly when you can build it intentionally? Welcome, Niyi Adewale.
Come on now, Dante. I appreciate you, and I'm happy to be on the show.
Yeah, so where was that specific moment when you realized I don't want to just make money, I want to own assets?
Man, if I had to pick a moment, right, and this is before I knew anything about real estate, it would be just growing up. It'd be, junior year of high school, which was right around that 2008 financial crash when I was trying to go out there and find a job, right? So I can help my family, help my mom, not have to pay for all my stuff. And and was told no everywhere. I went to multiple McDonald's, went to Perkins, I threw on a suit and went to Dollar Tree to try to get a job, and it was just no's across the board because everybody was reeling from that. And so I made a pact with myself that as soon as I could, I wanted to make sure that other employers could not have that control over me to where I couldn't make income.
Got it. I love that. Were you playing high school sports?
Oh yeah, I played high school sports, football, wrestling, track, and I was blessed to get a full ride to Temple on a football scholarship. And so I played in college as well.
Do you know Colin Madison?
I do. Yeah. Why?
That's my cousin, man.
Oh, that's awesome. I actually played. He was a senior when I was a freshman. So we had our bouts during training camp.
Yeah, O line,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
Man, wait until he's an assistant coach now at a small college in Elmhurst, Illinois. So
Nice.
still doing his thing. So yeah, small world, man. So
Small
now
world.
we're even connected now. So that's funny. So why real estate then? What intrigued you about real estate?
Man, so I started reading, all the books, the Rich Dad Poor Dads of the world, which got me inspired. And I was like, man, I want to go get into real estate. But it didn't actually teach you like what logical steps to go do. It just got you
Sure.
expired from a mindset standpoint. And so in 2015, I stumbled across a podcast, Bigger Pockets, right when they were getting started. And I think they had like 60 something episodes in at that point. I listened to every one of those episodes. Funny enough, I did this while in Chicago because I was in medical device sales at a company that was based out there. So during that time period, I'd say was like my learning, where I was learning, okay, this is what you can do. In one of the episodes, they talked about doing something called a house hack, where you buy, a duplex, triplex, quadplex, live in one unit, rent the others out, and that you could essentially live for free. And that was something that just stuck with me as, hey, this makes a lot more sense than what I'm trying to figure out with the 401k and stocks. And like, yeah, I'm paying X amount per month for my rent. If I can go get somebody else to pay for that, why not? And that's kind of how I kicked off my journey back in 2015, 2016.
Man, that is amazing. I'm still stunned about the whole temple owls and stuff. So I'm like, got my mind spinning. What would you say that you've learned? Obviously, let's say the last 10 years, that was something wrong about real estate, something that you may have thought was, oh, this is what it's going to do, and then it really like struck you off. Oh man, it's not like this.
Yeah, I would say initially I was thinking all cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. Like immediately when I was getting there, I was like, hey, what's the cheapest property I can buy? That's what's going to make me wealthy because it's going to replace the income. And that's not the case, right? Like what I found over time and what's changed my strategy up is, and it's funny, everybody always mentions this location, location, location matters, right? And if you're in the
Sure.
right location, even if the numbers from a rental standpoint are not as much initially, you're going to be just fine, right? That property is going to give you multiple exits. You're going to be able to have so much more wealth generated by that property over time being in the right location than you could if you went and bought in that D neighborhood where, it's not going up. And so initially, I bought a lot of those properties that were on the fringe, right? And I went through so many headaches of managing and switching property managers and all this stuff. And I've eventually, over time, been able to trade those properties in for more desirable areas where it's just a lot less management and it just works.
We and obviously in the trades we hear about the A, B, C, D types of properties. Can you elaborate on that for those that are unfamiliar with that terminology?
Sure. And everybody has their own definition for it, right? So you should absolutely ask if you're working with like a realtor or anybody else, like, hey, how do you define it? So this is purely my definition, right? But when I look at an A class neighborhood, I look at, hey, you're able to, walk down the street to maybe a luxury store, right? That's where you're gonna have, the Louis Vuitton store and all this stuff where it's like, hey, this is the creme de la creme. This is
Mhm.
where the most wealthy within that city live. I look at the B neighborhoods as kind of just a step below that. It's still in an awesome neighborhood, probably has a good school district. People want to be in that area, but it's not the top 1% of where everybody is in that city. I look at C neighborhoods as being on the fringe of like one, the numbers still work, but whether or not you would want maybe your partner to walk at night, right? Like maybe you're comfortable or myself, hey, I'll feel good walking around here at night, but I want to want my wife or my young son out at night, right? That's what I consider like a C neighborhood. And then a
Mhm.
D neighborhood is like I wouldn't be out at night, right? Like it's hey, this is you only want to be here when you need to, and it may not be transitioning as fast. We'll call
Got
it
it.
like that.
And obviously, the D property or the D area specifically might be it's a level of clientele. Right? The tenant is what is the level of income that you're looking at as well, or what do you see it in that?
It's a different type of tenant because the tenant that's going to stay in a D neighborhood may or may not need some assistance and they probably don't have a whole bunch of options, right? When you look like from a rental standpoint, an A class tenant is somebody who's like a doctor and they're just renting, or maybe they're in medical device sales like I used to be, and they don't want to be bothered. They're paying a premium and they're just like, hey, like I just want to make sure everything works. Whereas a D class tenant would be somebody who maybe they just got out of school. They don't have a lot of finances. Maybe they're renting with others, but they definitely are not, having a whole family, things of that nature for the most part in those areas.
Got it. And then I was curious if you could walk us through like that first deal that you were a part of, and just kind of just the steps you've learned. So it sounds like you started with house hacking. So was it just? Well, maybe step back. Have you done fix and flips, or is it more just buy and hold strategies for you?
So I'm a huge fan of buy and hold. From a fix and flip standpoint, I've lended on fix and flips, and
Hmm.
we definitely help other investors with that. I'm a fan of buying a house that may need some renovations, doing the work, and keeping the house. For example, I just bought another fourplex a little over 2 years ago, where the rents were not where they should be because it hadn't been renovated for many years. And so I
Mm,
renovated two of the units, right? And it boosted the rent from pulling in 1,500 to a little over 2,000 a month for both of those after they were
right.
renovated. And then I just got done with a refinance last year and was able to pull a good portion of the capital out from doing that work in there. And so I'm much more a fan of keeping it. I don't personally flip because it would just take my tax rate way too high.
Got it.
But I do lend on flips and I help other investors with flips.
Love it. Obviously, from a mortgage aspect that I have, we have really pivoted to the investor probably since the pandemic. It was cheap money at the time. A lot more investors were out there, accumulating assets, buying properties, and so we really started, diverting our attention to it. And we started getting into fix and flip products now. So I'm not sure if you're familiar, but if you are, obviously there's fix and flip products that are available, but there's also a huge amount of cash out refinance, leverage plays that we do as well. And we're starting to see what's fascinating is we're starting to see the increase in what they're allowing to lend on. It used to be, especially in the DSCR, I'm sure you're familiar with that loan product. It used to be, 20% down, but now we're starting to even see 15% down. And even we're starting to see cash outs were generally 75. We're starting to see 80% out there as well. And so we're seeing more. And when we see increases in product lines of what we can do, what we generally say is there's an appetite for it because we see there's more and more people that are interested in that product.
100% agree. And it's one of those things where it took a while for everybody to come around to this thinking. But as like more jobs get disrupted with AI and all the things that are coming out, like I think people are starting to look up and say like, hey, I need to have some sort of investment, whether that's if you believe in Bitcoin or whether that's the stock market or whether that's real estate, which is what I believe in, so that I can offset my income. And if the worst happens, me and the family are going to be okay. And so, yeah, I get excited when I see the different lending products coming there. And yes, we're definitely using the DSCRs. That 15% down has been amazing. Only
Yep.
caveat with that is you do got to pay a little bit more in points to make the interest rate even make sense. But
Correct.
but 15% down is amazing. And if you can get the seller to cover a portion of that, which we've been successful doing, it's awesome. And then one other thing that's been incredible for us, which I've used personally, and I'm advising all the clients that are willing to delay gratification to do, is that 5% down conventional duplex, triplex, quadplex, like for a
Mm,
personal house hack. Back in the day, you used to have to use your FHA, and then it was 20, 25% down, right? If you wanted to go
correct.
buy another one. And at that point, you might as well just buy a regular investment, right? Now, being able to house hack and put down 5% once a year to go buy a duplex, triplex, quadplex, that's one of the biggest hacks out there. And if you're able to and willing to delay gratification, I'd highly recommend doing that. You're putting the least amount in and getting the most bang for your buck.
Grant Cardone, once in one of his books I read, he said 16 doors, and then you're okay. Is there a certain amount of doors that you're trying to accumulate to say, hey, I can breathe a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily that's doors now because that was previous thinking. Like doors
Sure.
back in 2010 to 2020 and like maybe 2021 was kind of like my mindset. Now I'm more looking at the actual pure cash flow. How do I replace my income with this? But if you had to like ask, I would say in less than 5 years, right? If you stayed consistent doing that house hack thing and were willing to do it for literally 5 years, not even asking for much, right? Other countries don't even have this opportunity, right? The
Sure.
lending is completely different. If you can delay gratification for 5 years, and by delay gratification, all I mean is, hey, instead of buying the house with the white picket fence, go buy a duplex, triplex, quadplex, live in one unit, move the next year, move the next year. Yes, you can be financially free.
It's amazing to think. Obviously, you got to manage debt, and I usually say that financial advisors, what they do is they protect your assets and they help you grow your assets. But from a refinance standpoint, I'm a debt manager. My job is to kind of manage your debt because we don't. What we have seen is obviously credit cards have increased right now, right? A lot of people are over leveraged on a lot of credit card debt, and that's because they're trying to live a certain way. So the commitment that you're saying for 5 years is also a discipline. It's like, hey, we still can't go out like we used to. A lot of people get stuck. You've heard the term of like golden handcuffs, right? You know,
Absolutely.
wh- you're making 120, $150,000 in a corporate job, and you feel stuck because you can't lose that job because you've over leveraged yourself into that job, and
Yeah,
so
and
that's a fear.
it's true. And I would say two things to that. One, when you look at just the pie of how much you spend on a month to month basis, and you should look at this, everybody should, right? Usually for most people, about 50% of that income is on mortgage or rent, right? Like the biggest part of the pie that you're spending is on mortgage or rent. And so if you're able to do that house hack where you are playing offense by getting an investment, but also playing defense by lowering your cost out of pocket per month, it's a major win. And two, I know all too well about that golden handcuff, right? I was in medical device sales for 7 years, and made it to a director level where they were paying 250 plus all like the bonuses and things of that nature. And it was at that point where there was like a crossroads. It was, hey, I don't necessarily like the role I'm in, and I can see like what this looks like with my manager's role, and like it's just even more stressful traveling. You don't get to see your family. Or am I going to start and dive fully into this real estate thing and see if we can't make it work from a realtor standpoint? And the one thing that made it easier to jump into the realtor standpoint with a lot less pressure is because I had been investing over those past 7 years and had a whole bunch of units that were pulling in income. So it wasn't like, hey, you've got to replace all this day one. You just need to make a small portion and you're going to be fine. And I felt comfortable with making that jump before the golden handcuffs got too tight. Because if I got to the next level where it was $500,000, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
I like that because there's a major conversation about side hustles. And some people kind of fringe, because they want you to focus, right? Follow one course until success. So talk to me about side hustling. I mean, because obviously you work the corporate America, but you still were kind of building your own portfolio on the side. So talk about that.
I think everybody should have one, right? Everybody. And yes, you do want to have that one focus where you're putting all your time, energy, and effort to go in and kind of drive things forward. But you should also have maybe a passion or something that you like on the side that could become the main thing. And so real estate, like from the time that I started reading those books and listening to the podcast, was something I was excited about. And
Sure.
after doing the first house hack, I'm like, hey, I'm going to do this for forever. And then I was able to get to a point in the career where the job titles had switched. And when you climb that ladder enough, there's going to be portions that you no longer like. And I'm like, this is kind of rough. And so I would not recommend anybody just jumping cold turkey into something else. I would highly recommend that you build that something else up to a point where you have to make a decision, right? Get it up to a certain volume, whether it's a business, whether it's real estate, etc., to where you got to make a decision and then make the decision, whichever one gives you more time, energy, and value for what you believe you're doing. Kind of make that happen. But yeah, I think you should have a side hustle and hopefully something that can pay you passively over time.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. Is there ever a wrong time in buying?
Only if you buy wrong, right? There's never a wrong time to buy. Well, actually, scratch that. What I would say is if you have a short-term mindset of, hey, and everybody says they have a long-term mindset, but believe me, I've talked to a lot of people off the ledge where it's like we buy something and they're like, oh, this is hard. I'm like, yeah, it's not easy. And they're like, well, what if we sell it? What, you think I can get more? I'm like, dude, this wasn't bought as a flip. This was bought as a long-term buy and hold. And so if you have a short-term mindset, meaning less than 3 years, and you're not buying a flip, yes, you've probably bought wrong because you're probably going to lose money. If you have a long-term mindset of, hey, 5+ years, which is the way I look at it, anytime I buy a property, you're going to be fine, right? When you look at any portion of the real estate history over the last multiple decades, and you look at a 5-year period of time of ownership, you can find a slot within there where you're typically going to be going up in value to be able to let that property go and make some money. And typically over a 5-year period, your rents are going to go up, the property is going to stabilize, and you're going to be making more than you could even imagine.
No, that's awesome. I love that you say that. And do you say that to some degree for the people that sit on the sidelines? There's some people that are scared, right? They've seen it, they see it from afar, they see how successful you are, but they're still nervous. They're still concerned with, I don't know if is this the right time, and they're sitting on the sidelines. What do you say to those people?
Man, first, I definitely relate to them because I still remember back to when I bought my first property. I couldn't sleep for 2 weeks before closing and maybe 3 months after. I was like, oh, I'm going to ruin my life. I'm going to have to figure this all out. This is going to take me down. And then you fast forward, a few years later, and that same property was one of the best performers I had in the portfolio. I'm like, this is amazing. And so what I try to imbue to them is, hey, I've been down that pathway, and I try to show them that whole circle journey, because at the end of the day, these prices aren't coming down. Like the
Mhm.
trajectory is up and to the right for the stock market, for gas prices, for real estate prices. It's all going up and to the right over time. There may be a small blip every so often, but if you wait till later, that's just more time that you missed being in the market, because that's the best thing you can do. Just be in the market. It doesn't even have to be that hard. Literally buy one property a year, and you're going to be fine.
No, I can't agree with you enough. I get calls every day, and a recent call I had was with a 45-year-old single woman that was just, I think it might be time, and I was like, nah, like where you been? 20 years? What you been doing?
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's time. Like it's past time. So, yeah, I agree with you. I'm curious. What to you is still a grind in real estate nowadays? Like, you have obviously the level of experience. You've had the wins, the losses. What is still considered a grind?
What is still considered a grind? That's a good thing. So right now I'm working on building kind of the team aspect from a realtor standpoint, because in previous it was just me like making it happen. Now we got the team, and I'm working to train them. And so I wouldn't say it's so much as a grind as it's putting another investment out there. Like you have to invest in others for
Mhm.
many, many months, many, many weeks, many, many years before you start to see those fruits kind of reap and those individuals get it and start being able to help others even, on their own. And so that's where a lot of my focus is. From a real estate investing standpoint, a
Mhm.
grind. I would say, well, we got into some bigger investments, and the grind is like learning new pieces and trying to stabilize those. For example, that during that 7 year period, or really over like 5 years, I was able to buy about 30 units in Louisville, Kentucky, with an investor friendly realtor I had out there. And then I partnered with her to build storage from the ground up, which was a new project that we took on right when I left the W-2. So I traded in those 30 units to do the ground up build. And self storage is something I've never done before. She hasn't done before. So we're both figuring it out together. So anytime you got to learn something new, that's a little bit of a grind up front. But now we're at the point where we're over the hump, and we're able to run this thing with essentially two employees, a VA and a maintenance person.
That's
And we're
amazing.
seeing the occupancy go up. So I'm always trying to get into something new that's real estate adjacent, and keep learning. And I would say that's where the grind comes in, learning something new.
Got you. And I'm curious, you opened up a question right there as far as locality. Obviously, local investing is obviously what is taught. And, you taking that, a little bit of a risk, right? Going to Louisville, Kentucky, that's a little bit out of your scope per se. The boots on the ground that I'm assuming she was up there, is just the trust factor, or how did you do? I mean, how many trips did you go up to Kentucky, or was it just virtual? How did you handle that?
Man, so it's a bit of both, right? One, you do need to have some rock star team members, from the mortgage lenders to your realtor to, contractors. And the cool thing is, if you get one rock star, they can probably connect you with all the other pieces that you need to be successful, right? Now I agree. I think if you can invest in your backyard and make it work, you absolutely should. It just takes down that anxiety level a little bit. And that's how I started. I actually started in Chicago when I was in medical device. I was going through a training program with the company out there, and my first territory was Louisville, Kentucky. So I lived there for
Mm.
about 15 months. That's where I bought my first house at, because it was just cheaper and I had the money. And then when I moved from there to Boston to take on another role with the same company, I just kept funneling all of my commission checks, 90% of them, down there, and bought more and more and more, and built that relationship with her. And that's why I felt comfortable trading it all in to go do that self storage alongside her. And then I moved down to Atlanta, because I moved to another role where they let me take over the whole Southeast, and I
Mhm.
chose Atlanta. And long story short, I've been investing in my backyard. So you could say I keep investing in the two backyards I know, right? Kentucky and Atlanta.
Right.
Um, and I would invest elsewhere, but there's just a lot of value here, and
No.
so I keep going here.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the condo market is taking a hit, obviously, in Atlanta. But besides that, I mean, buildings, commercial and residential, there's great opportunities down right where you are.
Absolutely. And condos were always a bit tough here, right? Because it's more a townhome spot if you're going to do one or the other. Whereas when I lived in Boston, condos were huge. I actually bought a condo up there when I lived there that I house hacked with a roommate, and I sold it right when I left because Boston tenant landlord rules are not friendly.
You guys in Atlanta have a short term. You guys don't like the short term rental stuff down there, right?
No, I love short term. So I actually got into short term rentals in 2021. I now
Okay.
own eight, and we have a management company that manages about 25 of them from a one bedroom up to a 10,000 square foot mansion. Now, what you're probably alluding to is what you saw in the news, which is similar to what they set up in New York, where they were trying to crack down on short term
Correct.
rentals. That is only for Fulton County. And they've actually revised those rules. It's just the headlines are what everybody sees, right? And
Of
nobody
course.
digs into like the full on details unless you live there. And so we're still actively running many short-term rentals, even in Fulton County, but all around the Atlanta metro, and helping other investors acquire some as we speak.
That's awesome. I try to explain short-term rentals with a concept of saying, when I'm talking to investors, I say, hey, focus on 20 days out of a 30-day month, right? I figure, and they say, well, what happened to those 10 days? I was like, well, booking, moving, and cleaning is a major part of the short term. So if you're focusing on the 20 days, and then choose your number. If it's $2,000 a day, $800 a day, whatever the number is, that's basically what you can expect. Is that accurate depiction of a short term rental?
I would say yes, at a high level, absolutely. Now we take it a step further because we're the investor friendly realtors, right? And we have worked primarily in Georgia. We're also in Florida and Texas, and we use software called AirDNA to dive deeper into properties, and
Okay.
we will pull the actual comps, right? So we'll go into that zip code, we'll find the properties that look similar, pull the comps, see exactly what they have made over the past couple of years, and we'll filter only for properties that have been up and running for multiple years, not one that was just listed and they're estimating what it's going to make. And that's how we can accurately predict what you're going to make. And we've helped at this point probably 30 plus investors buy short-term rentals here in the last 2 years.
Awesome. I'm actually licensed down your way, also Texas and Florida as well. So that's good to know. And then the buy and hold, you're not really what I when I hear you say cash flow, so you're not really a focus on appreciation. That's just going to come naturally. Is that correct in me saying that?
You're spot on. I'm more focused, at least initially, on do the numbers work, right? Do the numbers work for this property? And it's not like going after the 1% rule and things of that nature of the past. That's gone for the Metro of Atlanta. Here, it's more like the 0.8% rule, where if you buy a
Okay.
house for 400K, if you can rent it for 3,200 a month, that's one that's worth pursuing. But the same caveat as we talked about before, I'm no longer buying in the D and C neighborhoods. I'm looking more for a C plus, B minus, a B, where it's over the hump, or it's already an established neighborhood that I know the appreciation is going to take care of itself. So that fourplex I purchased, I bought it in Gwinnett County a
Mhm.
little over 2 years ago. And Gwinnett County is an awesome school district, right? This fourplex is like behind a Chick-fil-A. I bought it for 800K. When I bought it, the rents were at $6,000 or 1,500 across the board. I renovated those two units, and I initially turned those two units into short-term rentals to make up for the cash flow for across the board, right? To make it make
Ah,
sense. and
smart.
and that brought in about 3 grand each, which made up that difference. And then over time, now the rents have increased. I've been able to increase the other two rents each year. Just take them up, and now I've got them close to market without renovating those units, which is awesome. As well as now converted those short terms back to long term rentals, and it makes sense. So I'm pulling in over 8 grand a month now with long term rentals.
Man, kudos to you. So, and I love how you did that because it sounds like, hey, I recognize the long-term rent at the time was not going to cover my expenses. Let me shorten it up so I can make more money in less time with the short-term rental. And then once I was able to spruce up everything to where I needed to be, now I can go back to a long-term and lock it in. That's really smart. And is that all from the bigger pockets? I mean, you gathered all that, or is that just you learn as you go?
You learn as you go. So the bigger pockets gave the inspiration and got started. But
Sure.
then, I've been in this for a while now. So you make mistakes and you realize like, hey, location matters, right? And so this location's awesome. I ran the numbers, and the median rent for that property was $2,000. The reason it was at 1,500 is one, it hadn't been updated fully, like the kitchens and bathrooms just look old and need some paint. And two, the previous owners had no incentive to. They were bringing in $6,000 a month, and a decade ago in 2013, they bought it for 180,000. They were good. They were killed. They were like, listen, I don't want to change. These tenants have been there for years and years and years. So when we come in, I'm like, all right, there's room to improve this. We can get it to more than 1%. It's just going to take a little bit of finagling. I didn't want to pull out money up front. So let me update these two, short-term rental in the meantime, while slowly increasing their rent. So it's not a crazy shock to go from 1,500 to 2,000, right? That'd be nuts. Sure. And kind of work it over time.
What is your, or if there is any fear of just vacancy, a vacancy factor, or people, were you worried about, hey, I'm going to lose this potential tenant, I'm going to get a new tenant? What were your thoughts on that?
With increasing the rent?
Yeah.
No. Well, even if it happens, it's one where you got to be prepared to go in and renovate that unit and get it to market. And that's always a risk. And so this is something I give to a lot of our clients as well. I have a document. It's just a templated sheet that we send out anytime there's a lease renewal. And we usually do it 90 days ahead of time. And what it essentially says is, hey, costs have increased. There's, gas has increased. This is going on in the world, et cetera. Here goes some comps of other properties nearby and what they're renting for. We're not increasing up to that, but we do need to increase rent. And we usually give two options. One is a shorter option that's going to be a larger increase, right? And the other is a longer option, maybe 24 months. That'll be a slightly smaller increase to lock somebody in. And so with those tenants, we've been doing that consistently, and it helps because your biggest cost, actually, believe it or not, is that turnover, right? Where you have vacancy plus having to come in and do updates and things.
Correct.
So if you can avoid that and continue to increase rent, you're golden.
Yeah, I had the experience of I had a condo I was renting up here, and I was new to the game a little bit, and she was a great tenant. She paid clockwork on the first, and she was a market tenant, and so I was like, oh man, this is great. And we went 8 years strong, but I made the bad move of never going to the property. I got lazy on the concept of the money's coming in every month. I don't have to worry about it. And so consequently, the pandemic happens. So from 12 to 20, and then she's like, oh, my hours got cut. I have to move. And then I go in there and it looked like World War III. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, I just assumed that everything was good, no issues. I never thought to check, the money's coming in, but you always got to check your asset. You always have to have someone put eyes on it because, it could have been cleaned or corrected along the way, but I let 8 years go by. And when I saw that disaster, I was like, I can't even turn this quickly, man. So, I had to put the money into it. And then, I just eventually just sold it just because I was like, oh my God, if I have to put all this into it, I make it nice and neat. I just sold it. But lesson learned.
Come on now. No, but I mean, you're spot on. It's literally what I try to do, because it's hard to get out to every unit now, right? Sure. Is I'll just work through the maintenance guys. So, hey, we're going to do filter changes, or we're going to do HVAC, tune up. And then they're also the eyes in there. Hey, man, when you go there, just let me know what it looks like. Take a video, pictures, whatever, right? So that we can know, if we need to do something with this tenant.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let me do a quick. Obviously, you're a realtor as well. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, contact with you, do you got contact information?
Absolutely. Yeah. So again, this is the Akabo Home Team. My name's Niyi, the leader of that team. We are investor-friendly realtors. We're based in Georgia, Florida, and Texas. If you want to reach out, just go to ekabohome.com, EKABO home.com. And Ikabo in Yoruba means welcome. So it's literally welcomehome.com.
That's awesome. Welcomehome.com. Ikabo.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then so they just need to go to the website. And then are you on social media at all? Or
yeah, on Instagram at Ikabo Home, EKABO Home. And you can find all of our contact info there. Always happy to jump on and have a conversation, even if I could just help you. If you're not in those markets and you just have questions about investing and kind of the do's and don'ts, just hit me up. Happy to connect.
Awesome. Now we do have questions. Obviously, audience has put us some questions. So I'm just going to take them one by one so we can answer these and make sure we're helping the audience. What was Niyi's very first step before buying his first property?
First step is getting pre-approved. You got to know
Ah,
before you open Pandora's box, like, hey, how much can I actually afford? And so that's when you're going to be, reaching out to kind of make that piece happen. Because if you don't know how much you're pre-approved for, it's hard to go out there and go find a property.
You know what? Before then, because I know you didn't know this, but I wrote a book. I wrote a book, The Ultimate Mortgage Guide is right there. It's on Amazon. And I always say that's the first step before the pre approval. One of the things I noticed was I started in this business in 2002. And so, I'm 24 years in the game, but I was getting the same questions from 2002 that I was getting in 2023. And that really bothered me to some degree because I saw the lack of education that people have when it comes to real estate. And so I just wanted to give them a blueprint. I said, I don't care if you're in Alaska, Georgia, Florida, Boston, whatever. This information is just pivotal, just so you understand some of the terminology and you don't feel so overwhelmed. And that's why I wrote the book, The Ultimate Mortgage Guide. So I always say, hey, read the book, listen to the audio. And then once there, then let's get pre approved. Let's help you out and let you know what you can or cannot do. We got another question here. How did he manage risk when starting with limited capital?
Man, so this is where that house hack came in. Because that first property I bought, keep in mind, I was fresh out of college, right? Just started, in an internship and then got put into the field as my first territory. And so the first triplex I bought in Kentucky in 2016, you can't get this now, was $190,000.
Mm.
And I used an FHA loan where I put down a total of about $5,000. And I had the seller cover a lot of my closing costs because we negotiated that. And so that was one way to get in. And then think about it. Before that, I was paying $1,200 a month to live in a dope place in Kentucky. Like Kentucky, $1,200 a month can go far, at least back then. And then after that, when I bought the house, my mortgage was $1,350 per month, but the other two units were bringing in $1,400 a month. So I literally was saving $1,250 a month. If you think about it, that I can put to the side and save for the next investment. Or if you do, the 12 times 12, 14,400, in a year saved that I can now put down as a down payment for my next investment.
That's awesome. Is house hacking still effective in today's market?
I'd say it's one of the most effective strategies you can do. Like if you're willing to delay gratification, I love house hacking. In fact, I'm house hacking right now, a decade later. I just do it a little bit different. And I got to convince my wife, right? But I do more luxury house hacking. And so before I would go into the quadplex where I lived in a 1-bed, 1-bath, rented out all the other units. Now I have a family. And so in this luxury house hack, we live in a 3, 2.5. The back unit is a 5-bed, 4.5. It's huge. It's a luxury short-term rental that last month brought in a little over $11K, right? And that covers majority of the mortgage. So yes, house hacking is still effective. And it's one of the best strategies you can use.
I mean, I would almost attest that it's the only way. I mean, with prices being up where they are, sometimes it's hard for people to even qualify, for 200,000, 300,000 on their own. So it's like, work with a buddy, work with a partner, house hack it up, and then that way you can cover the cost for even qualifying or just, paying the mortgage monthly. How did Niyi balance his W-2 job while growing his portfolio?
So when you got the first property, the house hack, that was pretty easy because you're just buying where you live. Now, when I moved to Boston and I started continuing to increase the portfolio while learning the new role and going out and crushing that role, at about 15 units is where I hit my limit. That's when I was like, hey, I can no longer do both, manage my own portfolio and be able to continue growing and success in the job. And so that's when I sought out property management to help me. Now, I'll give you a caveat. At that time, you should know kind of what's needed to go and manage these properties and get it going. And that's going to help you. But I still made mistakes. The first property manager I picked was not a good company. In fact, when I had to fire them 6 months later, they had done something with the security deposits. And I had to send a lawyer letterhead their way to let them know we were serious for them to release those security deposits because it should have been in a different account. The second property managers I hired were much better, and that allowed me to grow from 15 units to 30 units because literally all I had to do was run the numbers, make sure the property was good, and then at the closing table, hand everything over to the property managers and they went and took care of all of it. So try to manage it as much as you can with the software you have initially. Like I use like things like Buildium and things of that nature, online software to manage it. And then once you get to a level where it's just too much, you can seek property management, and you probably have enough units to make it make sense.
To make it affordable. Now, when you say units, are those 15 unique properties or just 15 doors?
15 doors. No, I
15
was buying
doors.
all small multifamily, so it was probably
Got it.
across like 4 properties or 5 properties.
Gotcha. I mean, that's still, I mean, headaches because I did property management for 10 years and, I built it up to about 36 doors and just, I mean, that takes a whole day. I mean, just driving to all these locations, putting eyeballs on. This was, pre a lot of the software that's out now. So I feel like an old man, but yeah, no, it's definitely an animal to deal with. How do you find the right property in a competitive market?
Man, so you just got to really define your criteria of what you're looking for. And then it's almost like that red car theory, right? Where if you buy a red car, all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of red cars. I get this question. Actually, somebody asked me this yesterday. They're like, well, I can't find any small multifamilies and I really want that and da 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 da. And it's going to be their first one. And I assured them, hey, we're going to be able to help you because we're constantly looking for this. And now people send stuff our way even before it hits the market. And so I would say you got to get really tight on your criteria and make it a reasonable criteria, right? But get really tight in your criteria and then just start searching for that thing and put in time every day. It's not something you're going to do, unless you're working with a whole investor friendly team that's going to be able to do it on your behalf. It's not something that you can do once a week and hopefully find it. You want to each day do just a little bit. 5-10 minutes a day should be enough to find the property.
Obviously, I just imagine to what lengths are you going as far as looking for properties? Are you doing door knocking? Are you doing direct mail pieces, or just simply waiting to see what's on the market?
So we do a little bit of the cold calling, right? And then we also are just in touch with so many agents now, and we've closed so many deals across the board that they know, like, hey, this team can get it done when it comes to these type of investment properties, and we
Hmm.
get the outreach. And so there's a lot of times where we're selling deals that haven't even hit the market yet because the
Right.
owners are reaching out to us and saying, hey, I saw that you did this one on the triplex or the duplex or whatever. Can you help us with that? And we'll make it happen by pushing it to our network. So that's a lot of it. And then also right now is actually an awesome time to buy just on market. And there's so many deals that have been sitting there just because the interest rates were high for a bit. And now sellers are starting to be open to giving you more concessions, giving you more price, giving you more things. And interest rates, at least until this war started, were coming down a bit to where like the numbers make more sense. So
Sure.
you just got to take a look. I would say get with the right team, and that team should be able to assist you in finding the right property.
You're so true on that, and it's just an interesting thing where you really do have to filter. When you filter in and tell people to focus on it, is it more about bedrooms and bathrooms and location, or are you telling them to be a little bit more open minded to location?
It really depends on the person, right? So every person that we're connecting with, like we have a 15-minute to 30-minute conversation initially before we do anything, where we're trying to figure out their why, what they want to accomplish, and then establish the game plan. There's plenty of people out there where they're like, hey, I'm just looking for a deal. We're not going to work with you until we've had a conversation to refine what that means, right? Because if
Hmm.
you're just looking for a deal, we can't help you, right? Well, hey, if it's short-term rental that cash flow, but also if this small multifamily works, and I'm also open to a house hack, we just want to know what is the next deal that you're looking for. And then we get laser focused, i.e., that red car theory, and we're able to take the sniper approach versus the shotgun approach, and we're pretty successful at finding deals once we refine it down to that.
Awesome. What tools or apps do you recommend for managing rentals?
So two. So for my long-term rentals, I use Buildium. And Buildium's just been around for a long time. I don't know if it's the best one. I know there's free software now, but I love Buildium because one, I know how to use it, and two, I've been using it for a long time. And so it allows me to collect all the rents online, maintenance requests, everything is done online. And now I have it set up to where I know the different, at least, the main handyman for each property. And so anytime a maintenance request comes through, it just automatically filters the email to the handyman. The handyman has all the contact information for the tenant, as well as the pictures the tenant put in there, the description. They just go fix it and then invoice me. And they reach out to the tenant directly to schedule it. So I don't do anything until Like unless they're like, hey, this is a little bit bigger, then I'll find somebody else and kind of go from there. So that's for long-term rentals. For short-term rentals, we use something called Hospitable. And Hospitable is incredible. Like it allows you to automate about 80% of the activities that go into short-term rentals to make it a lot more passive, right? Because in the past, you used to have to take every message and remember to remind the cleaners and do all this stuff. This system allows you to automate all of that to where all you're really answering or doing is like the one-off things that can't be done, with AI.
Awesome. Is it better to invest solo or with partners at first?
If possible, solo. For that first deal, you want to go out there and be able to make all the decisions. I've done both, right? Obviously with the self storage, and also even before that, I partnered on a 12 unit that we purchased. And partnerships can work, but it literally is like a marriage, right? You don't want to jump into it because you are scared, like, hey, I'm nervous about doing this. Let me just grab a partner and we'll do it together. If you have the finances to do it yourself, you want to go solo initially so that you can kind of learn the whole process and kind of get that knowledge. And then the partnership piece should only be selective. And if it's the right partner that has the same goals, and if you guys talk about everything up front, similar to a marriage, the way you run into issues is if you guys don't discuss everything up front about the expectations that are in your head that you think like, oh yeah, this person knows about, you should probably verbalize it, right?
Oh,
Same thing in a partnership. And you need to talk about the worst case scenarios, right? Like, hey, what if this thing doesn't work out? Like, is there an out on this thing? What are you going to be doing in this partnership? And define all that on paper. And then ideally bring in a lawyer to help finalize like the operational agreement to where it's all in writing and that you guys can look at it separately and sign it. That will help you avoid so many issues down the road if you do that. But they say it's faster to move solo, or how the saying goes. It's faster if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's so true. So for your first deal, I would go alone so you can go fast and start learning. And then as you want to go bigger, now you know what all it entails, and you can accurately put together a partnership.
awesome. How long did it take to replace the W-2 income fully?
A lot shorter than I thought, right? So the cool thing about investing in real estate is, and this is one of the calculuses I did, right? Your W-2 should be your business partner. You want to invest alongside that because you can ask Dante, it's a lot easier to qualify when you have a W-2. Way easier,
Yes.
right? When you're 1099, it's completely different. You're jumping through different hoops. But what I would say is treat it like a business partner and start building up your portfolio. And then one of the cool things that I did, because again, I was making 250 plus, like there was a 50K bonus every year, all this stuff. It was a lot going on, right? And we were reaching different heights. But I didn't need to make 300K to leave the W-2 and move aside. The reason being, Uncle Sam was taking like 30 to 40%, right?
Right.
But when you move into full-time real estate, now you get all the tax savings. And so what I really needed to make was maybe like 150 or 160K, right? So that's a lot easier to chew because now I can take all those write-offs and the depreciation that I've been pushing off of my taxes. The other thing is I started doing the short-term rental cost segregations, which reduced my income significantly. And that's why I continue to buy at least one a year, because it allows you to essentially write off a good portion of the income that you make, right? In year one. And so that's been huge. But the two things that made it easier for me to leave that W-2 is one, the realtor piece started picking up. I said, hey, if I start closing, 2 deals a month, I think that's going to add the supplemental income to make me feel comfortable. And then two, and I didn't think this was going to be a thing, the management piece of short-term rentals, right? Because you can charge a lot more than long-term rental management to manage short-term rentals. And just for context, right? One of the hot properties that we manage is a 10,000 square foot mansion. That property brings in 30 grand a month, right? Because it's a unique property. We have a lot of celebrities who stay there and things of that nature. And we charge 20% for our management fees. So that's 6 grand a month just off of that. And we got 20 other properties, not as big as that one. So all those things together kind of started to make sense. But at the time, we weren't managing anywhere near the number that we're doing now. I just could see the pathway and the growth pathway. And I had done that in my career in sales, in medical device sales. And I saw, hey, if I continue down this path and put my all into this, what could this be down the road? And so, yeah, I would say fully replaced. It was probably within, because it's 2022, probably within a year and a half, we were fully replaced on that income with The real,
Yeah.
but keep in mind, I was doing
Right.
both for a while. I did both, like the realtor piece, as well as my investments, as well as the W-2, until I
Sure.
got to the point where I was missing meetings. I'm like, yeah, I'm dropping the ball. I got to choose one.
Right. You said so many good points on that. I mean, obviously, gross income versus net income. Most of the W-2s, as far as qualifications go, we use the gross. So we use the 250,000. And then obviously in the self-employed world, it's the adjusted gross income, net income, after the write-offs. So you have to keep that in mind. So sometimes people think 300,000, but you had the foresight to understand, like, hey, I don't. It's not really 300,000 after Uncle Sam takes his portion. What is it really? And then and that's just so important for people to know. But it is easier to qualify, so it is a great side hustle to kind of get into this. I just feel like, and I'm going to ask you this. I was going to ask you a little bit later, but is there a goal that you're trying to obtain? What is your long term? What are you just, do you want your company, your business to, be on, on the ticker tape on the stock market, or what are you aspiring to do?
Outside of for the love of the game, it's I think everybody needs to continue to work on something. Like you have to, right? We're not meant to go sit down somewhere on a beach and every day do that, right? Like you need to be actively engaging your mind and doing stuff. I've just been able to move into something I'm more passionate about, and so my personal goal is every single day get closer to living the ideal day, and I would encourage everybody else to do that as well. And so, my ideal day may be a mix of, hey, I get to go to the gym, spend some time with the family, work on something, help somebody out, maybe do some charity work, things of that nature. So that's what I'm guiding toward. And that's what helped me move more into this because now I don't have, 2 weeks or 3 weeks of vacation a year. We're going to a wedding, it's a destination wedding out of the country for a week and a half. And I didn't have to ask anybody, right? We're just going, we're gone. And then we're gonna take another trip later, right? And kind of keep going from there. So that's moving toward the ideal day. But when you talk about the real estate team, one of our goals is we want to be the number one team in Georgia and then eventually expand that to Florida and Texas. Georgia is because it's the first one and we're moving up the ranks. And so 2 years ago, we finished number 15 with EXP in Georgia. Last year, we finished number 13. This year, we're shooting for a top 10 spot. And eventually, we're going to go for that number one spot and then continue to expand that. And for our team, we want to be known as the investor-friendly realtors across the nation. We're fitting a specific niche, right? There's a lot of realtors out there, but not many of them know how to run numbers or are personally investors themselves. And
Sure.
most of our team actually were clients first that we helped buy 1, 2, 3 deals before they went and got their license, joined the team, and are now helping others. And so we want to be the investor-friendly realtors that people look to help build their wealth.
Awesome. No, that's great. Akibo Homes, right?
Acabo Homes. Yep.
Acabo Homes. Yeah, so make sure you guys check out Acabo Homes in Georgia, Texas, and Florida. Now, you can help. Can you help investors if I'm looking to buy in Nevada or anything like that, or no?
Absolutely. So we have our personal team members in Georgia, Florida, and Texas, but we've
Mhm.
also built out a network of other investor-friendly realtors across all the other states outside of Alaska. We're still working on that. We got to vet them.
Sure.
And so if you're looking in Nevada, reach out to us. We will connect you with the realtor that we partner with out there, and they'll be able to help you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in the investment world, what the regulations allow us to do is, we can go through any state ultimately. So there's about 40, at least 45 states that I can, do business in. So I'm not just, and that's why I love the investment side. Just trying to get it outside of Illinois where I'm at. But it's like, okay, now I can help somebody. So I'm working on a 4-unit building in Massachusetts, and being able to help him, and we're doing DSCR, cash out refinance, and all that good stuff. And just, having the ability to help people, wherever they need to be is, something that I enjoy doing. I
Absolutely.
think we
I
have
love it.
one more here. What advice would he give to someone starting today?
Man, it's never too late to start. And I would say, like, just like, take it one step at a time, right? Too many people get overwhelmed and they look at the whole process and they say, hey, what if I make a mistake? And we're looking so much on the negative side and trying to protect against a mistake that we don't look on the positive side of what if I knock it out the park? What if 5 years from now I own this asset that's now cash flowing, it's gone up in value, and I'm so happy because I can leverage that to now live a more ideal life. And so I'd say start with a long-term vision, right? Of, hey, I'm going to be in this for, X number of years and keep working at it. And my goal is to get maybe one a year and take it one step at a time.
I love that. The thing that really triggered me, I turned 45 last year. And so it was the first time ever where I recognized I was closer to 60 than I was 20. I still work out, I'm still got that alpha male in me. So it's like, it was hard for me to, it just kind of hit me all of a sudden. And, one of the things I said is like, life is too short and we kind of get signed up for this 40 years of work and 20 years of life. And we didn't sign it, we didn't agree to it, but we're just already thrown into it. And that is the real world. For most of us, coming out of college, whenever it is, you're going to be 20 something, and then you're supposed to work until you're 60 something. And then hopefully you get 15 to 20 years of retirement. And that just didn't sit well with me. It never has. And really just, that kind of mindset really popped into me probably about 5 years ago. And I was like, I got to do something where the ideal life. And that is, getting a workout in the morning, maybe go seeing a movie, getting a massage, doing some Pilates, spending time with family. That is an ideal life. And I think that's something to aspire for sooner than later. And when you look at exponential growth, and I want to get your take on this, the only two things that can really exponentially grow you is stocks or real estate. And it's kind of pick one and, whatever discipline that you enjoy doing. And we gotta get the accumulation started.
I think you're spot on. And when you look at those two, stocks is one where I'm a bit more risk averse, right? With stocks, all I do is more the S&P 500 and kind of let it grow from there. And with stocks, you largely can't control what that company is going to do, right? Like you're not a part of it. Whereas with real estate, what I love is that you can control how that asset performs. And if you're really good at managing, it can do better. If you're really good at the negotiating up front and buying, it could do better. And coming back to what you just said, there was something that happened early in my career that made it even more apparent. So one of the things, the pacts that I made with myself is that once a year I take a trip outside the country, right? Somewhere to start crossing things off my bucket list. And the reason I made that pact is back in 2016, when I did take over for a rep in Louisville, that person was 60, right? They had just retired and all they wanted to do was go down to Destin, Florida and build a retirement home. And unfortunately, 6 months into retirement, he suffered from a stroke. And it messed up his gait and his walk. Thankfully, he's still alive today, but he can't do half of the things that he was looking forward to down there. And when I saw that, I was like, hey, man, I need to make sure that I'm not waiting until the end to start enjoying. And that was where the whole mindset around living that ideal day and getting closer to it and saying yes to more trips. Because at a certain point, you're not even going to want to do some of this stuff. When you get 70, you're probably going to want to just hang at home, man. Like you're going to be like, hey, I want to go hike a mountain. I'm good.
Facts. No, this has been great, man. I mean, this, I think it's affirmation. When you get a like-minded person, and you get to talk to them, it just affirms everything that you've already, kind of believe in yourself, and you just need to hear it from someone else. And so everything that you're saying is spot on. It's something that I'm trying to tell people as many as I can. And that's why I'm so thankful that you were able to come on today and just spread that word. And, if we can work together even, that'd be great too. But I think it's important just to spread the word and let people know that, you don't have to wait until you're 60, 70 years old. It starts today, and living your best days because, yeah, I mean, time, we don't control time. We don't know when our expiration date is. We have no clue. So
Come on now.
Yeah, that's good stuff there. So yeah, let's make sure you give out the website one more time, any contact information. We're going to wrap this up right now.
Absolutely. And Dante, thank you so much for having me on. This has been epic and I appreciate you. And if you want to reach out to me, anybody that's on or listens to this later, it is Ekabo Home, EKABO home.com. Or you can follow us on Instagram at Ekabo Home, or just Google my name or Ekabo Home and you will find us.
That's awesome sauce. Yeah, I'm going to be texting my cousin as soon as we get off. Like, hey.
Yo, tell Colin I said what's up, man. That's awesome.
I will tell him for sure. For sure. He's gonna be like, dude, how'd you meet him? I
Yeah,
was like, man, you gotta be listening to the show, man. I told you I got a show. But
I see, man.
anyway, hey man, appreciate you. Have a great rest of your week. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be back next week. I think I'll be back next Wednesday. So I'll make sure to let everybody know on social media. Make sure you give this a like if you like this. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We try to bring topics and conversations. Love to have you back, man. Maybe we'll. I got some other, co-host Jess Ford is normally with me on this day. She couldn't make it today, but we'll definitely try to have you back so we can maybe get into maybe some deals and get into some numbers. I think sometimes seeing is believing, and so if they can see the power of that, that'd be great as well. So hopefully that we can make some work down the road.
Come on now. Done and done. Dante, thank you, man.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Take care.